Hey, that's a win-win, man. If everyone wants to fight on who's the most ethical, I'd love it. That's a great competition. Kent is probably one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Y'all are really fortunate to have him as a colleague and a professor here. He's a really, really nice guy, cares a ton about this, and I really appreciate how much you care about this. And Jillian, I'm glad you're here. She never gets to come with me, so I'm glad she's here. If you have a way to take notes, you should do that. I don't have any slides, but a lot of times people email me and say, hey, can you send me the notes? And it's all up here. I don't have any. So take them, write down whatever you think is relevant. I just want you to think about your life today. So for the next, whatever, 50 minutes, an hour, I want you to think about a couple of things. What makes you up as a person? So your character and integrity. I want you to think about what that means to you, and how do you weather the storms of life? So when you get knocked down, what makes you get back up again? These are important questions, and I think we all know that they're important, but I think when life happens to us, we just say, well, I'll think about that later, or I'll think about being a good person later, and then later never comes. I went to law school in North Carolina, so anyone here been to the South? So they have these huge pine trees. They must be 60 feet tall, they're 3 feet wide, just these huge trees. And when I was there, my first year of law school, a hurricane came through. So I'm from Colorado, so kind of like here, we don't get hurricanes. So I was scared. And I turned on the news, and they said, well, the winds are going to be 160 miles an hour, this thing. Here's what you need to do. Go to the store, get as much food as you can, fill your bathtub up with water. It's crazy. Have an evacuation route from your house in case. And then they said, don't get hit by a falling tree. And I was like, how in the world could one of these trees fall, even in the biggest storm? I mean, these trees are huge. And so I asked my friends, how does that happen? And they said, well, here's the thing about these pine trees. They have very shallow roots. And so their roots are wide and shallow, but they're not deep. And so when the hurricane comes through here, it'll rain for a week, and the ground is inundated with water. And when that happens, there's nothing for these roots to hang on to. And these big trees, a little bit of wind, and it just knocks them over onto cars and houses, and that's how people die in hurricanes. And I never thought that. But this pandemic has got me thinking a lot about roots and people. You and me, right? We have roots too, and some of us grow them shallow, and some of us grow them deep. And here's the thing I've learned over the last 3 years. You can't always tell by looking at someone. Kind of like those trees, they look big and strong, but I've seen this COVID knock people straight out. I never thought it would, and some people I thought would be ruined by it are thriving now. So I want you to think about your roots as I talk to you today. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of them is your family. A strong family is a root. And a good group of friends would be a root. And I would say your brain, the ability to pivot in times like this, is a root. And character, obviously, is another root. That's what we're going to focus on today. But all of them are. And so you want to grow them deep as opposed to shallow and wide. So I was the first person in my family to go to college. Any other first-gen students here? So congratulations. Yeah, it's cool, right? But your parents can't give you a lot of advice. And it was just my mom. I remember I got my letter into college. I got into one university. I applied to like 20. I got into one. And she sees my letter and she goes, Corey, I can't believe you got into college. And I was like, well, geez, thanks, Mom. She goes, go down there and don't screw it up. She said, you're our only hope. And I said, I have a little sister. And where's the oldest? Where are the people who are the oldest? It's on you, right? So I go down there, and they put us in a room just like this big auditorium, and the registrar comes walking in with this thick stack of papers and goes, you can't leave this room until you pick a major. This was like 3 weeks into college. And I'm sitting there going, pick a major, man. I'm just happy to be here. I have no idea. Are you kidding me? So I tried to hand the sheet back to him. And he was like, no, you've got to fill this out. You can't leave. And literally couldn't leave. So on that sheet were things like history and political science. You remember that sheet. And I liked that stuff in high school. So I thought, well, I'll just pick history. But I had this voice in the back of my head. And it's my opinion that we've all had this voice. And it kept talking to me and going, Corey, you can't pick that. You go to college to be rich. Raise your hand if you've heard that voice at least once in your life, and the rest of you are lying, liars, liars, liars. So I said, well, you know what? That voice is probably right. It's talking to me. That wasn't really talking to me, but you know what I'm talking about. And so I circled business. Look, I love business majors. I teach in a business school, but I just want something I would have majored in other than if I hadn't thought that. All right, fast forward. I'm a junior in college now, and all my friends are taking the LSAT. And I thought, that's the trick, man. If you could just go to law school, you could be rich. By the way, this is the wrong reason to choose anything. And I'm choosing this. And so I go to Duke, and the only reason I go there is I want to go to basketball games. So this was a tough weekend for me when they just lost. But it was fun going to those basketball games, and it was fun being out there, but I didn't want to be a lawyer. And by the end of my law school journey, I still didn't want to be a lawyer. They hadn't convinced me that that was a good path for me. But now I owe a lot of money to the government, right? So you go interview, at law firms, and I would go to these law firms and I would talk to these people, and they looked like they wanted to cry. And this was in the interview. They can't hold it together for 15 minutes with me in the interview. And so I get to this last law firm on my list, and it was downtown Denver, this really tall office building. And I'm talking to this woman. She's a partner there, and she's done. We're done. She goes, there's 5 minutes left. You can ask me any question you want. Just ask me, and I'll talk to you about it. And I had no questions because I didn't care. I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I looked at her, and I said, how much does it pay? Now, I don't know how much you know about interviewing, but you're not supposed to ask that, right? You wait until they give you an offer. What kind of idiot asks that? So she looks at me, and she's all befuddled, and she goes, oh, okay, well, I'll tell you. We'll pay you $120,000 a year, or something like that. And if you bill a certain number of hours per year, you'll get this huge bonus, like a $75,000 bonus. And then we'll give you a 401k, and on and on. And I was just a poor kid from Arvada, Colorado, just a suburb. I was just a poor kid. So I looked at her when she said that to me, and I said, that's amazing. I'll take it. She's like, I'm not offering you a job. She goes, you just asked how much you paid. This is an interview. And she then literally looked at me and goes, what is wrong with you? You seem really nervous. Do you need to go to the bathroom? Y'all ever been asked if you needed to go to the bathroom in a job interview? I have 2 little kids at home, these precious little girls. And I ask them every 20 minutes, hey, who needs to go potty? But I was 25 and asked if I needed to go potty. So I looked at her and I said, yes, like just to get me out of, whatever to get me out of this office. So she goes, it's down the hall to the right, like, I'll see you later. And I'm assuming that lady thought she would never see me again. That was it. So I go to the bathroom door, and there's a man standing there. He's in a suit and tie, an attorney. And he's blocking the door, and I can't get by. So it's awkward, right? It's not like a Bronco game where you would brush past him or something. So I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me. And he finally points at my chest, and he goes, I want to talk to you. Get in there. Get into that bathroom. So I go in there, and he follows me like we're going to fight. And so we go up to the sink, and I'm just washing my hands for no reason. I'm just washing my hands. And he comes up next to me, and he puts his arm around me. Y'all ever been touched by someone in a bathroom that you don't know? Some of you are like, all the time. Let me change the facts. Someone you don't know at a job interview. So he's got his arm around me. And now he's whispering. And there's no one in there, right? And he goes, your name's Corey. And he's creepy. And I look back at him. I'm like, yeah, yes. He goes, you went to Duke Law School. You're that kid. And I said, that's me. And he goes, well, I went there too. And my name is Scott. And we're supposed to stick together because we're alums. And I'm going to let you in a little secret, so listen carefully to me. And he leans in and he goes, don't come, work here. I said, what? He goes, this place sucks, man. You're going to hate this place, and you're going to hate these people. And it won't be long before they hate you too. I said, they're going to hate me? They don't even know me. He goes, you're going to keep a suitcase behind your door, and every family vacation you ever plan is going to get canceled. And he said, Corey, they're going to pay you a lot of money, but that's a trick. And he goes, so take my advice and run. And he took his arm off me, and he ran out the door. And I never saw that guy again the rest of the interview because you don't put Scott on the official interview team. Like, he's unhappy. He doesn't get to interview candidates, right? So he leaves, and I'm just staring at the mirror. It's just me in the mirror. And we've all had this time in our lives when it's you in the mirror. And I knew he was right, but I tried to justify it away because I wanted it so bad. So I said, well, Scott's jaded, and he's a lone wolf, and every company has someone like this. And you know what? I just happened to run into him in the bathroom. What are the odds? But what are the odds? Like, he sought me out. And he could have lost his job for saying that. So the odds of that being a coincidence are really, really small, don't you think? And I should have listened. But I blew it off because I wanted it so bad. So they offered me this job, and I'm there. And I'm 6 months into this job, and it's miserable. And I'm sleeping in my office chair, and I'm there all night, and I'm not home, and my vacations were getting canceled. And I had just gotten married, but we didn't have any kids yet. But I still wanted to be home, right? And so I remember one night, it was a Sunday morning at 3 in the morning, and I was walking around the office. I was there, and there's my boss. And there's her boss, and there's his boss. And I looked at the copy machine, and there was a 75-year-old man or something, a partner in this law firm, like making copies. This guy was a legend. Like, you'd know his name if you're from Denver legal community. He's sitting there making copies at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. And I said to myself, that's me in 55 years or whatever. I don't want that to be me. I need to quit. But you can't just quit a job like that. I just got it. So I called my wife. And this is exactly how the conversation went. And she's cool. Like, say hi to her when this is over. Like, she's really friendly and nice, and that's why I married you. You were cool, but not this night, remember? So I said, honey, I'm going to quit this job. Are you okay with that? We had just gotten married. And she goes, you're going to quit this job that all your friends would love to have? And she says to me, I had no intention on marrying a quitter. I was like, well, I should have called my mom. I shouldn't have called you. I should have called someone else. Then she keeps talking to me, and she goes, well, what else do you know how to do? Do you have any other skills? And I'm like, do you love me? Why are you saying this to me? Her point is, can you suck it up for 6 more months, and you'll have been there for a year, okay? Here's what I've learned since, though, about teaching in a business school and about morale. Here's what I know now. Morale will only change from the top down. If you go to an entity, an organization, and the morale is terrible, you're not going to be able to change it from the bottom. It doesn't work like that. And so what will happen is you'll just quit. And the people who don't care about morale, they'll just stay. And then they'll become the boss, and you'll have this vicious circle of crappy morale, right, forever. And so I should have realized, like, I promised her 6 more months, but I knew it wasn't going to change because the bosses didn't change. It's the same people. People don't really change unless something really drastic happens, usually, right? Anyway, I was there for a year. 6 months went by. It was over. I fulfilled my commitment to her. I went to my office. I typed up my letter of resignation, and I put it in a little white envelope. I don't know why. I never quit before. And I'm walking over to this partner's office, and my hand is shaking. I'm about to quit a job that paid, $200,000 a year. And I didn't have any other job lined up, but it was that miserable. And so this guy sees me, and his name is Mark. And he goes, "Hey, Corey, what's that? What's that in your hand? What's going on?" I said, "Hey, I'm going to quit. Here's why." And I had this whole speech planned of what I was going to say. I didn't get to say any of it. He jumped out of his chair. He runs over to me, and he goes, "Shut up, Corey. Nobody quits this law firm, and nobody ever leaves. Give me that." And he ripped the letter out of my hand, and he ripped it in half, and he threw it in the trash can by my feet. What would y'all do if you handed me a paper, like I'm your professor, and you handed me a paper, and I just ripped it up right in front of you? That'd be therapy for a lot of you. Like, you would go straight to therapy. So I realized just like a couple years ago that no one ever read that letter except for me. I was the only one that read it. I wrote it, and I was the only one that read it. And so I saw it in the trash there, and I looked at him, and I said, "Mark, everybody at this law firm is completely and utterly miserable." And he looked me right in the eyes. I'll never forget this. And he goes, "I know. I just told you that every single person that works for you hates their job and their life." And he's like, "Yeah, no, I know that." I said, "These people here, they're on their 5th marriage." And he looks at me. He's like, "Yeah. Think about that for a second." And he goes, "Corey, you're not listening to me. Everybody here hates it. And everybody here wants to quit. That's not what I said to you." I said, "No one actually does. And there's 2 reasons why. One, they don't have any money." And I said, "How could they not have any money? These people make $1 million a year. These people made a ton of money." And he looks at me and he goes, "It doesn't matter how much money I pay these people. They always spend more than I pay them." They spend more than they make, which is like a bumper sticker that we should just send out on tax day. Like the government should just send that out with your taxes. Don't spend more than you make, comma, idiot. Like, stop doing that, right? But think about that for a second. We all know people like that. We know tons of people like that. Doesn't matter how much money you make. I just thought if you made $1 million a year, you'd be okay. Let me give you a piece of advice, and this is worth writing down, okay? If you can live within your means, you will retain the flexibility to quit a job you hate. Never, ever forget that. So it's not, your parents might have said this to you, listen, be fiscally responsible. I think that's important. I don't know a lot of 20-year-olds who care too much about that. Or, hey, your parents said, one day you want to save money because one day you can retire. You guys are like, great, that's when I'm a grandpa. How about this? You get your first job out of this place, which, by the way, this is a beautiful campus. What a lovely place to be and go to school. But if you get your first job out of here and it's miserable, you can walk away because you're not broke. That's power. You don't have the golden handcuffs. You're not stuck. And what people say to me is, well, why do you have to say that, Corey? Everybody knows that. Wrong. Because the people at this law firm, Harvard, Yale, whatever, law schools, Berkeley, and they didn't know that, and they were stuck. And he said the second reason, this one's actually more powerful than that one, is that they have too much pride. Here's the metaphor I use to describe this. These people had climbed the ladder of success, okay? They had gotten to the top, and these people were at the very top. And they looked down of this ladder they've been climbing their whole life and realized it was leaning against the wrong wall. Now what do? Do you climb back down, seriously? And you're going to pick it up, and you're going to move it over here, and you're going to start climbing a different wall? No way. No one wants to do that. So they just stay in these jobs that you hate, they hate. So here's my question for you today, okay? I want you to think about this throughout the rest of the semester. Are you climbing the right ladder? And I'm not telling you to change your major, and I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm not telling you to break up with anybody. All I'm saying is, what are we doing? Why are you going this route? See, when I was your age, I had no clue, and that's why I told you that story at the beginning. I was chasing all these wrong things. I was climbing this ladder for no reason. It was taking a lot of energy, took energy from me, and it took time, and it was brutal. And these people had done that. And so I looked at my letter in the trash, and I looked at him, and I just walked out like that was it. I wasn't a lawyer anymore. And so I have no job. I'm kind of running my own business and something like that, and I get a phone call from the University of Denver. And this guy's name is John, and I had never met him before, ever. And this is how the phone call went. He goes, Corey, this is John from the ethics department at DU. Someone died down here last week. And that's all he said to me. And I'm like, well, nice to meet you, John. Geez, a student died? Why are you calling me? I had no idea why he was calling me. And he goes, I should have been more clear. It was a faculty member who died. And he was, 87 years old. He had been at this university for 60 years, and he just died. And we're in the middle of our academic term, And do you want to be a teacher, he says to me. I got to get someone in there to teach these classes. And I didn't want to be a teacher, right, at that time in my life. You might as well ask me to be an astronaut. I wasn't interested in that. No, thank you. So I tried to get out of it. And I said, John, no thanks. I don't want to come. He goes, please, Corey, there's no one else on my list. Just so you know, I got a job because no one else applied 17 years later. And I said, when did he die? And he said, well, he died last Thursday. I said, John, this is Tuesday. This is way too soon. I'm not going to interview for a dead guy's job. That's bad karma. I'm just making stuff up. I don't know if it sounds like bad karma. I don't know. And he goes, Corey, think about it like this. Bad for him, but good for you. And I was like, what kind of ethics department is this? This is ridiculous. What do you mean bad for him? He's dead, real bad. So I went down there and here's why I went down to interview, because these are the things you do for your alma mater, right? If this place asks you to come back and help, you will. This is what you do for your alma mater, right? So I went down to this interview. Now I have to pause here, because I have found my calling in life as a teacher. Do you know what that means? It's a religious term, but you don't have to be religious to believe this. A calling is a why am I on this earth type of thing. And here's how you find it, okay? It's where your passions and your talents collide. And you have to find that, right? So with me, when I was a lawyer, I didn't love it, and I wasn't very good at it. And I worked so hard on a career where these two things were never going to touch. But as a teacher, I love it, and I'm good at it. This is what I should be doing with my life. So here's the prompt, okay? I want you to ask yourself, what do you love more than anything? And you should have 5 things on that list. You just love it. And you don't want to necessarily be very vague on that. So don't say, well, I really love people, or I really love communicating. That doesn't help, right? Here's what I know about me. I would say, here's what I love to do. Take complicated information like philosophy, okay, that's what ethics is, kind of, and translate it so that anybody could understand. I'm good at that, okay? Which means I should be teaching at that level, but I would be a terrible second-grade teacher. So it's not fair for me to say I'm born to be a teacher, because that's not necessarily true. I would be bad with high school. I would be bad with middle school. I like this. So you got to narrow it down a little bit, okay? Then say, I love that, and I'm good at that. I'm way better than my friends at that. And I would say for me, when it comes to this, yeah, I am. But I wouldn't be a better law professor necessarily, or a math teacher. So I want each of you to do this tonight. Go home and make a list of 5 paths your life could take where your passions and talents collide. That's a pretty powerful thing. And if you do that, you'll never work a day in your life. Now, I still have really hard days, and I still get really tired, and I don't really like to get on airplanes, and I don't like driving to the airport, but when I get to do this, I always want to. I can't think of one time where I didn't want to stand in front of a room of people and do this. But it doesn't mean you won't be tired. It doesn't mean you won't be sad or whatever. It just means you'll love this, right? And I want you to have that. Because when I was at my law firm, I would drive to the parking garage and not want to get out of my car. You ever had a job like that? I don't want you to have that. But you will have that job if you don't think about this, okay? But I didn't know any of this at the time, so I'm sitting in this interview. And they said to me, what do you know about ethics, Corey? You're going to have to teach ethics. And I said, this is exactly what I said. I said, nothing. I don't know anything about ethics. I went to law school. That was my answer to the question. And the guy looks at me and goes, what, isn't there an ethics class in law school? What do you mean? And I said, well, I took that ethics class. It was lame. Here's what we did in my ethics class, okay? And you've probably had, not Kent's, never would he do this to you. But we sat on my legal ethics class, and they had this really thick book. And he hands it out, and he goes, listen to me. Write down these rules and memorize these rules, and you'll be an ethical attorney. Rule number 1, don't have sex with your clients. Everyone in the room was writing it down until we realized what he said. And halfway through that sentence, I just stopped writing duh. You kidding me? And so I started just checking them off. He said, rule number 2, don't steal your client's money. Okay, really? On and on he goes for 15 weeks. And I walked out of that class, and get this, I was the exact same kid, day 1, week 15. You ever had a class like that? You walk in, you walk out, you're the same. Didn't make me better, didn't make me worse. It's an utter waste. In her medical school, they had an ethics class. Anyone want to guess what rule number 1 was in her ethics class, medical school? Don't have sex with your... No, well, that's in there, which is a good rule. But don't have sex with your patients. They just changed the word. And listen, I'm married to a doctor. I love that rule. That's a great rule. Are you kidding me? We're going to teach these people this in class? Then they said, don't commit Medicare fraud. Don't commit Medicaid fraud. These are great rules. Don't cut the wrong leg off during surgery. So I see these notes, and I looked at her, I'm like, honey, like, does that happen? What is going on? And she looks at me and she goes, all the time. Apparently the wrong leg gets cut off all the time, which proves my point, I think, which is that these ethics classes, in and of themselves, don't work. If you just give a kid an ethics class and that's all you do, it doesn't work. And if you don't agree with me, then you tell me, how come so many lawyers and doctors still cheat? Tell me, how come so many accountants and engineers still cheat? I cannot tell you how much time I have spent at accounting conferences or engineering conferences because they have to have continuing ethics education. And they bring me in as the speaker, right? But then you read all these stories and you're just going, what is going on? Here's the step that we have skipped as a society, okay? Every one of you in this room first has to believe deep in your soul that being a good person matters. Do you believe that? Because if you don't believe that, I'm not going to convince you here in an hour. And a 15-week class is not going to work. And an honor code at a university is virtually useless. Do you know the statistics of how many students cheat every time they go to college? So it's 77%, and it's a self-reported study. So you respond to the study of how often you cheat. And 77% of students say they have violated the honor code seriously at least once. And the number's probably higher. You guys just lied on the ethics survey, right? Like, it's probably higher. If I was starting a university from scratch, the last thing I would do is create an honor code. Why create something that's just going to get broken all the time? Can you imagine if 7 out of 10 people just ran red lights? Can you imagine? And maybe that works in Laramie. Probably not, but in Denver, that's a catastrophe. Can you imagine if you went to the airport, and let's say I go to the airport, okay, and I gather 6 of my fellow citizens. Listen, y'all, we're not going to take our shoes off. Screw that. We're not going to take our laptops out. We're going to hold our water bottles on the count of 3. We're all just going to run through. And all 7 of us are going to run through the thing. By the way, I've seen someone do that. Do you know what happens when you run through the thing? You get tackled like WWE style. But would you want to get on an airplane with me? Of course not, right? So I think that the mistake we make in our society is we just throw a lot of ethics at people, right? But we never ask the heart question. And I want to ask the heart question today to you. Because I want to be thorough and I want to maybe believe that. Otherwise, it's just a word on a piece of paper. And if you have an honor code versus all these other wants in your life, what do you think is going to win? So here's how my students do it with cheating. They go like this. I know I shouldn't cheat because I'm a decent person, but everyone else is cheating. Have you ever said that to yourself? Everyone else is cheating. Of course you have. Everyone else is getting an A. My parents will kill me if I don't get a good grade. College is expensive. I need to get a job. The economy's not that great. Look what happens. And this loses every time. And when you get to the real world, it goes like this. I've got mission statements at my business. And I'm not a totally bankrupt person. I think those matter. But you know what? I got to impress my boss. And I want to get a promotion. And one day I want to sell my company. And I got to do all this, my stock options or whatever. Look what happens. Well, the words alone will never convince you to be good because this stuff is too powerful. But once you believe that being a good person matters, I'm not telling you that it wins. All I'm telling you is that you make it fair. And that's what we need in our society, right? We at least have to have the good angel and the bad angel on our shoulders. It needs to be fair. So that's all I'm going to talk about today. Now, you're probably going, why in the world would you teach ethics if you don't believe it works? Oh, I think it works. I think once we've passed this hurdle, I think it's invaluable. Here's why. The world is gray. Have you noticed that? I could think of like 12 things that are always morally wrong. You know, rape, child abuse, sexual assault. I don't know. I could think of 12 things. And above and beyond that, it's gray, don't you think? Like, is it ever okay to lie? I don't know. Think about World War II and a German soldier comes to your house and says, are there Jews in the basement? I mean, my argument to you would be you probably shouldn't lie. I think it's almost always bad, but not 100%. Should you ever steal? I don't know. Your kid is sick and the medicine is too expensive, and if you don't get it, he's going to die. I don't know. I mean, it's not 100%. You probably shouldn't steal, but not 100%, right? And in a world that's gray like that, wouldn't it be nice to have some core values? Wouldn't it be nice to have 15 weeks of ethics? I think it's critical. But I don't want to skip this step, and I don't know why we do that, but look at our world today. We've clearly skipped it. So here's how I teach ethics, and it's nothing like thick books, okay? In my class, first day of class, I just tell one story. So I tell them this story. And this story was told to me by a man named John Bogle. Do you know that name? He founded the mutual fund industry in this country. Interesting guy. So he comes to Denver to talk, and I'm in the front row. I'm right there listening, because this guy's a legend. But he doesn't talk about finance at all. He just gets up on the stage and goes, tonight, I'm going to tell you a story about a dog. It's like, what? Dog? And he puts a picture up on the screen. He goes, this is the racetrack, the dog track, where all these famous dogs race and people bet. Anyway, this is the most famous one of all time. And he has won tens of millions of dollars for his owner, this dog. And the night before the biggest race of his life, they're on the porch and they're talking. And the owner looks at him and she goes, hey, you ready to run tomorrow? Because we're going to win. And the dog goes, you know what? I have to tell you something. I'm not going to run tomorrow. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to retire. I quit. And she doesn't understand that. She's like, what do you mean? Everybody's here to watch you. And all the fans are here. And the media's here. We're going to make all this money. Are you hurt? Are you mad at me? Are you too old? And she has this litany of questions she asks. And this dog kept going, no, no, no. And she says, tell me why you won't run anymore, because I don't understand. And the dog says, well, I've been thinking about my life lately. So same question I asked you. And ever since I was little, all I ever remember doing is running and running and running around these little oval tracks. That's all I've ever done. And I finally realized those little white rabbits you have us chasing around the track, they're not even real. And he says that. And I'm like, whatever, who cares? That's cute, who cares? I didn't get it. It's profound, I just didn't get it. So he keeps talking. At the end of his speech, he got me. The last thing I heard him say was this: you can never get enough of what you do not need to truly make you happy. Let me say that again. You can never get enough of what you do not need to truly make you happy. Then he just sets the microphone down and he leaves because it's over. And all the audience just left because it's dark out and it's cold. It's over. And they all just left. And I sat there for 2 hours till the custodians kicked me out. It was a room kind of like this. I sat here for 2 hours till the custodians kicked me out. And here was the questions I was asking myself. You know, Corey, you have more money than any of your friends. You have a better job than any of your friends. You have a more elite education than any of your friends. A nicer car, a bigger house. I mean, on and on. And I kept coming back to this. So why aren't you happy? Y'all ever asked yourself those questions? I've been climbing and climbing and climbing, and I got it. I got where I wanted to be, and I'm miserable. Those are hard conversations. But at the end of 2 hours, when they kicked me out, I figured it out. You know what I figured out? The world had been lying to me. In the same way that the world is lying to you. So I'm just going to repeat this because you may never hear this again, okay? Let me tell you some lies. And tell me if you've ever heard this one, okay? If I just had more money, I would be a happier person. Okay, that's a lie. Because I know a lot of rich people who aren't all that happy. Do you? And does the richest person you know, is that the happiest person you know? Of course not. That's not true. Okay, how about this one? Young women, if I was just prettier. Anybody? If I was just skinnier, I'd be happier. Guys, if I was more athletic or stronger, those lies literally kill my students. You know what? I know a lot of pretty women who aren't happy. Do you? So that can't be right. And how ridiculous. My most athletic guy friend, I can't even imagine myself looking at him and going, dude, you're so good at basketball. What should I do with my life? Like, why do we idolize these people? What does he know? He's just good at basketball, right? Does Will Smith seem all that happy to you? Does Hollywood seem all that happy to you? I mean, I don't think that works. Do your grades, right? You ever heard that? If you just had better grades, you'd be happier. You ever thought that? If I just could get better grades? Well, that's not true. I know a lot of 4.0 students I wouldn't ask to mow my lawn. Like, they're not competent to even do that. So that's ridiculous. What was it in high school? If I was just more popular? Well, how's the most popular kid in your high school doing today? Super happy, thriving? Generally not. At my stage in my career, I don't care about being popular anymore. When you get older, you don't care about that so much. You know what I like now? Esteem. I want my colleagues to think I'm good. You'll get to that point, right? And I remember my first couple of years teaching down at DU, and I would get my student evaluations back, and they would be like perfect sixes. I would get sixes from every single student. Amazing, like never happened before. So I'm like, you know what? My department chair is going to be so proud of me, and he's going to come over to me. He's going to thank me. I'm going to get a raise. You know, they're going to give a plaque in my honor. You know what happened? Nothing. They didn't say a word to me. No one thanked me. They started to get mean to me. Do you want to know what it was? They were jealous. Y'all ever had a real big accomplishment in your life and found that people were jealous instead of being happy for you? But what if I based my worth on their respect? Where would I be? If I based my worth on their esteem and respect, I'd be a miserable wreck. Now, I have to pause here and say this to you. I find each of those things I just mentioned to be important. I hope each of you walks out of this building and makes $1 million in your life. Life's a lot easier if you have $1 million. Listen to me and write this down. Money's bad when it defines you. And that's a totally different thing. So don't go tell Kent, well, Corey told me to be poor. I never said that. You can be as rich as you want. I don't care. Just don't let money define you. Corey told me to be ugly. No, listen. Your looks are only bad when they define you. That's a different thing. You should be fit and healthy and try to be as good looking as you can. Listen, do I think it's important for your colleagues and your superiors to respect you? Yeah, of course. Just don't let it define you. That stuff's fake. in the rabbit chase thing, but it's not bad. It's just fake. Don't seek other people's approval because you may not get it. And there will always be someone prettier than you. Have you noticed that? There'll always be someone richer than you. And that's what that story meant. All he meant by that is you'll never catch it. Those dogs don't catch it, right? Now, here's my analogy for this, okay? Do you like Thanksgiving dinner? I love Thanksgiving. What's your favorite part of the dinner? I love mashed potatoes. I love the mashed potatoes. I had some at lunch today. I like them that much. Okay, let's say I called my mom this year and said, Mom, we're coming home for Thanksgiving, okay? I'm bringing the kids, bringing Jill. We're going to come home. How are you? And let's say I said to her, how are the mashed potatoes? Let's just say I asked that. I might. And let's say one year she says to me, you know what, Corey, I don't have any. Like they went bad and I don't have time to make any more, but we'll see you Thursday. Am I then going to say to her, you don't have any mashed potatoes? We're not coming Thursday. We're going to Chili's. We're not going to go home. No one goes home to Thanksgiving because there are mashed potatoes. Everyone agrees with me on that, right? But if I get there that night and she has some, for some whatever reason, I'll eat as many as I can. That's not why you go. And my question for every one of you in this room is how many of you are getting up each and every day and going to your life for the mashed potatoes? Because if I put you all alone in a room with an unlimited amount of mashed potatoes and a spoon, for how long would that be fun? You're like, that would be awesome. Yeah, for like 7 minutes. And you never want to see another one, just gouging yourself on mashed potatoes until you throw up. That's money. Someone with money and nothing else is a pretty miserable person. Someone who's beautiful and has nothing else is a miserable person, right? And you see Hollywood, you see how these people are respected in Hollywood, but they don't seem all that happy to me. So it's a lie. So what's real? If I'm going to tell you what's fake, I'm going to tell you what's real, and I narrowed it down to 3 things, okay? Everybody wants these things. Kent and I, we have really good jobs because we just get to talk to people. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what your religion is or isn't. Doesn't matter to me. Like, I have found that people are wired different. Some people are patient, some people aren't. Some people are compassionate, just wired that way, and some people aren't. When it comes to character, we're just wired the same. We just all kind of come out the same. We want 3 things. Number 1, peace and contentment in our hearts. Do you have that? Do you get any of that ever? Let me ask it in a different way. There was a magazine in America that used to ask this question, and they got to poll like tens of millions of Americans, so it was a wide audience. And every single year they would ask this one question. They would say, in the morning, when you wake up, do you genuinely and consistently wake up happy? That's the question, okay? So it's not saying, do you wake up tired? Because that's a stupid question. I wake up tired every day. Every single day I have 2 little kids, right? And a dog. Why I have a dog, I don't know. We have a Bernie Doodle, okay? And don't listen to this part. And I keep Googling, how long do Bernie Doodles live? Dog wakes me up. Dog poops on my side of the driveway and not hers. Anyway, I don't sleep because of that. Doesn't he? He does. I can't stand that dog. But what the question is asking is, deep in your heart, genuinely, and over long periods of time, consistently, do you wake up happy? And do you want to know why that's a great question? Because you get to take your worst days, you get to take your best days, and you average them out, and you find out who you are. And when asked that question every single time, every year, it was heartbreaking. 77% of Americans would say, I don't wake up happy like that. Like, if that's how you define it, it's not me. And it breaks my heart because I kept going, man, we get to live in America, and that's your answer to that question? Now, I have to say this. One of the classes that I teach is constitutional law. So I love that class, but that is a hard class to teach these days. Like, our country is a mess when it comes to that and politics. And so my students will come into class in tears. I mean, America will break your heart. But do you remember the preamble to the Constitution? Remember back in high school? It says we seek a what kind of union? Do you remember? More perfect. It doesn't say perfect. And so it's a concept that I call constitutional advancement. And if I see America becoming more perfect, I can live with it. And so there are some areas where I think that's happening. And there are some areas like race where I don't think it's happening. And sometimes it's too slow, and sometimes it's not right. And listen, America will break your heart. I know that better than anyone, period. But there are also billions of people with a B who would love to come to this country and have our bad days. Now listen carefully to me. Both of those statements can be true at the same time. And I know like 2 people in this room, okay? I'm going to say this to the rest of you. If you can't find a way to genuinely and consistently wake up happy here in this country, chances are you are chasing something fake. And I don't know you. But you got to stop, because you'll never win. You can't win that race. And so you have to stop. How do I know? Because I did it. It doesn't work. We lack peace. There's this quote by Socrates, and I found out how we lack peace. And here's what he said. Beware the barrenness of an overly busy life. Isn't that good? Beware the barrenness of an overly busy life. And I know how busy you are, and you're overprogrammed, and I know how it happens. It started in high school, right? You get up in the morning, you do whatever homework you have left, you eat breakfast if you can, you rush to school, you do all your classes, you go to sports practice, maybe there's piano lessons after that, then you come home and you rush through dinner, and you want to spend a little bit of time with your friends, and then you try to study a little bit, and you go right to bed, and you get up the next day and you do it again. And you come here to college and you do the same thing, and you go get a job and it won't change, it'll be the same. But have you ever been really busy in your life and at the same time really lonely? And so we're smart people, right? So we go, gosh, I'm really lonely. I guess I'm not doing enough. It's the opposite thing you should be doing. So then you go take on more projects. And by taking on more projects, you just get lonelier. And do you see what happens to your life? Here's my advice as a college professor to you, okay? Pick 2 things you love here. Just pick 2 things you love and quit everything else. Just do 2 things with all your heart. You know what I don't want you to do? Is waste all of your time building some stupid 4-page resume that doesn't mean anything anyway because you half-assed your way through the whole thing. And I know how college students are because I had one of those resumes. I had nothing to show for it. I was in every single group you could imagine, and I don't have any friends from college anymore. And I can't look back at college and say, I made a difference in that organization. Man, I would do it so different if I was in your seat. Pick 2 things, and then do school right. And do social right, and quit some stuff. You know what students say to me when I say that? They're like, well, you know what, though? If I don't run that group, it'll die. Well, maybe it should. Maybe the group sucks. I mean, look at supply and demand. If you're the only one keeping it alive, then maybe you should die. If no one else cares, right? And I'm not telling you not to go to the meetings. I'm telling you to stop running stuff. You don't have to run everything, right? Just pick 2 things you love. And you know what? Try to enjoy your time here because it gets harder. Right? Life gets harder. College is fun. This is not the best 4 years of your life. I hope that isn't true. Because you have 60 more to live, God willing. But this should be a fun 4 years. Where you see this, the 6 inches in front of your face. Live some of that here. And you can't do that when you're just building a silly resume. Okay, so that's number 1. Can you please, just for once in your life, find some peace? 2, you want a small group of really good friends. Notice I didn't say a huge group of crappy ones. And the fact that I have to differentiate those 2 statements is amazing, right? That's so America, isn't it? I kept writing a long time ago, I'd write Facebook these emails, and they'd never write me back, because I think it's because I started off by going, I'm an ethics professor. Start that way, they won't write back. But I kept going, you should change that friends button, because you're killing me. It should say acquaintances at best. That's what they should have on Facebook. Do you want to be acquaintances at best with Corey? Because we fall into this trap of, I don't have enough friends on social media. I don't have enough connections. My LinkedIn is too small. And we sort of derive our worth from that, which is ridiculous. If you think about what a friendship is, it's someone who rushes into your life when everybody else rushes out. So if you're under the age of 25 in here, you need about 3 of those people. Do you have 3 real friends here? Like if you were getting married tomorrow, you would be so proud to have these people stand next to you at your wedding type people. These are your advisors, the people that give you good advice, right? They hold you accountable. They don't always kiss your butt, right? You need about 3. And I still struggle with that in my life. But you know what you don't need? 20. You don't need 20. I was at the University of Maine. I'll never forget this. And I was talking about this with them. And this one girl raises her hand and goes, Professor, we don't have to worry about that. We're surrounded. And it's true. You're always surrounded here. Have you noticed that? In college, you're always surrounded. And I looked back at them and I said, is there a chance that in your life you're surrounded all the time and also friendless? And I said that and people just started crying. I had to stop. I got to stop for 30 seconds just to wait and let it, because these people are like, well, I joined Greek life. Well, I don't have any friends. Or I'm in student government. Well, I don't have any friends. It doesn't work like that. It's not supposed to work like that. Just because you join something doesn't mean, friendships have to be earned, right? Anyway, I want you to think about that. Okay? And number 3 is everyone wants to be good. And again, maybe not here, but here. We're all born with a conscience, right, that tells us right from wrong. For instance, do you remember the first time you ever lied? Remember how hard that was? I remember my first lie was to my grandparents. I broke something in their backyard. It was like a gnome or something stupid. And I lied about it. And when they caught me, I felt bad for a week. Remember those lies and how hard it was? Is it easier now? It's easier now, right? My 8-year-old is named Sophia. And if you met her, she's this precocious, beautiful little gift from, this girl is precious. But she lies. She's just learning how to lie. She's hilarious. When she lies, she moves around like this. So I know exactly what's happening in her head, okay? So her head says, Sophie, you want that, lie. And her conscience says, don't lie, it's wrong. And so she can't figure it out. So I look at her every single time. I'm like, honey, are you lying to me? And she just looks back and she's like, yeah. She just tells us that she doesn't lie. Like if you took a lying class, on day one of the lying class, they would tell you if someone asks you if you're lying, you lie. She doesn't know. She never took lying classes. It's like our lives every day. She's 8. When I lie, sometimes you can't even tell. What about you? My biggest disappointment as a college professor is I never thought an 18-year-old kid would walk right up to their teacher and lie right to my face. Happens all the time to me. It's devastating. I hate that. You know what I've realized about, or one other thing I should say about my daughter is when we get in a fight or whatever, that doesn't happen that often, but when we do, she'll run off. And then 5 minutes later, she's back hugging my leg. Daddy, I love you. Sorry. Do you forgive me? You know what I do when I get mad at someone? I just end the Zoom call. What an idiot. I just drive to work. She deserved it. I got idiots working for me. There's idiots everywhere. Like, my daughter senses a relationship that's fractured that she doesn't want fractured. She wants fixed. She wants to make it right. And I want to get revenge. I want a conscience like an 8-year-old again. That's what we should teach in our ethics classes, right? I don't want her brain. And I don't want her emotions. I have no idea what's going on inside an 8-year-old girl's head. But if I had my daughter's conscience, my life would be so easy. Hey, Corey, should you lie? Why? Should you step on someone's head to get to the top? Like, who would do that? And I picture her face. Like, Daddy, who would do that? Should I make an exception for myself that I'm not willing to grant to others? She would look at me like, well, I don't understand. So here's how, maybe your mom told you this. Do you want what you did last weekend to be on the front page of the newspaper? Anyone ever heard that? I have a different one, okay? Would my daughter be utterly befuddled by my actions? Right? Would she just look at me and go, what in the world are you doing? What is integrity? You're the same on the inside as out. That's what it means. And my daughter knows who I am. And if she saw me doing something like that, she would just look at me and go, I don't understand you. What's going on? Man, that's convicting to me. Y'all need something like that. You need something to hold you accountable for your actions. If the newspaper says, if it's that, it's that. I don't know, but man, that works for me almost every time. Why? Because I have this innate desire inside of me to be good. We all do. It's our moral compass. But the cool thing about being human, and I love this about being human, is you get to put it on mute. Right? I would hate it if we couldn't do that. But listen to me. The more you put it on mute, the more it breaks. And at some point, it's irreparably broken. Look at Bernie Madoff or that lady from Theranos. It's broken. It's broken, right? But for most of us, that's not true. And so then, I don't know if in your ethics class if you did Aristotle yet, but, you're the sum total of your habitual actions. Aristotle's right. And if you lie and lie and lie, you just become a liar. Right? Have you noticed this? You also act like the people you hang around with the most. You ever hung around liars? You start to lie. You ever hung around someone who's mean? You become mean. He's right. And so what I got to do in my life, I don't really lie. That's not a problem for me. But if I'm not compassionate, then I need to practice compassion. And maybe for you, you need to practice courage. I don't know what it is for you, but you got to do it. And his point is, the more you practice it, the more you become it. And until you become it, you'll never thrive, is what he said. You'll never have this flourishing life. I think that's probably right. Okay, so let's say you're with me to this point, and you agree. Okay? What I'm about to tell you next is going to be the most important thing you hear all year, I promise. Okay, so get your notes out. Can I give them homework? Okay, here's homework. Homework, she says yes. Okay, here we go. You've got to get your priorities straight. You have to do this. And I'm shocked by how many really smart people I meet who have no idea what their priorities are. They don't write them down. They don't think about them. It just doesn't cross their mind. They do the Bon Jovi theory of life, which is living on a prayer. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but most times it doesn't, right? And the one time it does work makes you think that the next time it will. It's like betting on sports, right? You bet on sports and you win once, you lose the next 12. Got lucky once. Okay? So here's your homework. Take a piece of paper and we're just going to sketch this out now. Don't do it. Just sketch it with me, okay? You're going to draw a thick vertical line right down the center. Okay? So vertical line right down the middle. On the top left side, you're going to draw a heart. Okay? And that's going to represent your heart. Then on the right side of that line at the very top, you're going to draw a picture of you. It's going to represent you. Underneath that heart, you're going to have 10 blanks. Okay, so heart top left, human being top right. Underneath that heart, you're going to have 10 blanks. Just number them, 1 to 10, that's it. And then underneath that picture of you, you're going to have 10 blanks. So it's kind of symmetrical, okay? Now, beneath that number 10, where line 11 would go, you're going to draw a thick horizontal line, because we're not going to go past 10 priorities. That's killing us. That's why we can't find peace, okay? You get 10. Okay, now, you're done. Once that's done, just look at me. You are going to go home when you have quiet time, and here's how you're going to fill this out, okay? On the left-hand side, you're going to list your priorities 1 through 10 as your heart desires them. In a perfect world, what would you get up and do first? For your life, second, third, get all the way to 10, stop. So here's the thing, though. I hope school still makes that list. Like, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I wouldn't quit my job. I really like this job. Hopefully you wouldn't drop out of school if you won the lottery. It's silly. So I think work deserves a place on there, and I think school still deserves a place on there, and probably not at the top, all right? So sketch that out. Now, what most people tend to put there at the top of those things is faith, if that matters to you, friends, family, school, health, and beneath that, we sort of are different. So someone will put rock climbing, and someone will put football, someone will put music. It's your list. I don't care. Put whatever you want. Okay, now on the right-hand side, you're going to list your priorities 1 through 10 as you currently live your life. So left side is I want, right side is, but this is what I do. And you're going to have the same words over here. They're just going to be in different order. This is the problem. So you're sensing that, right? So what you're going to do is take your pen and connect similar terms with a line across the page. So family goes to family, work goes to work, health goes to health, right? If you have a word on one side and not on the other, you just draw a line off the page. Then you take your list, and I want you to hang it on your fridge, and I want you just to step back, and I want you to just look at it for like 5 minutes, just stare at it. And here's what you're looking for. Horizontally parallel lines. This is what you want, okay? If I saw your homework, and I never even met you, I could still tell you whether you're a happy person or not. If A, I know you did it honestly, and if I saw your lines go like this, I could tell. But if I saw your homework, and I saw this, I wouldn't even need to meet you either, because I would know there's no way that person can be happy. Because his heart never gets what it wants. So there's just impossible, right? So how do you structure this list? And this is where I get in trouble, okay? And I've said this to a lot of people, okay? I've probably spoken to 1 million people on a stage. Let's call this the wisdom of crowds, okay? None of you should ever put your job at the top of that list. I want you to promise me you won't do that. And people look at me and they go, well, this is America, man. That's all we do here is work. That's our problem. Listen, I love the American dream. When I was a kid, my dad was in jail. This is the only country in the world where someone like me could become a law professor. Let's be honest. I love the American dream. The problem with the American dream is that no one will ever tell you to stop. You ever heard someone in America say, you've made it, stop? No, you should stop. Like, just stop and enjoy it. Just stop. I don't think those top spots are reserved for that. No one I've ever spoken to has ever come up to me and convinced me otherwise. They don't even try. They sort of know I'm right, and then they just get mad at me. What I think deserves a place at the top of that list is for you is faith, if that matters to you, family, people. And then I think your job still matters. I hope it does to you. So your school, it should still matter to you. It still comes high. It's just not at the top. Why? Because your heart doesn't want that. I promise your heart doesn't want that. I have people who come up to me all the time. These are bosses of a lot of people. And they come up to me and they're like, hey, Corey, I work 80 hours a week, and I'm totally miserable. I'm blowing up my marriage. I'm about to become a full-blown alcoholic. My kids don't even talk to me. Can you help me? I can't tell you how many people have said that to me. And so I can't just fire back some trite answer. So that's a big question, right? So I went home and thought about it. I'm like, what do I say the next time someone asks me that? I got to answer it. And the only thing I could say to those people is, look, man, you got to go home and fix your lines. I say that. And they look back at me, and one guy goes, well, Corey, if I do that, my stock options won't vest. You're right. You're probably right. A woman said to me once, she goes, I'm moving up quickly in this company, and they need a woman in the C-suite. But if I do what you say, Corey, I have 2 new kids. I want to be with my kids. But if I do what you say, I'll never get that promotion. What should I do? And I looked at her, and I said, you just answered your own question. I could see it in your eyes. And she goes, I want to be a mom. And she never quit. And she went to be with her kids more, and she never got that promotion. And she wrote me an email, I remember, I'll never forget this. And she goes, Corey, I did what you said. I'm this awesome mom right now, and I'll never get this promotion, but it was worth it. During the Trump-Clinton election, I did a Q&A. We're doing a Q&A? I hate Q&A. Because sometimes there are hard questions. And this lady raises her hand and goes, let's take someone like Hillary Clinton. And she wouldn't have gotten to where she got in life if she did what you said with her priorities. And so what would you say to her? And I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, right? But it's the same answer I would give anybody. And I said, does Hillary Clinton look all that happy to you? I mean, if we're just being honest, does any politician at that level, man or woman, seem all that happy to you? Like, I never turn on the news and go, wow, there's a U.S. senator today, looks really happy. Those people look miserable. Wow, there's a federal judge today smiling. I've never seen a federal judge smile, right? Turn on CNBC. There's a CEO of this huge company. Looks really happy today. These people look miserable. The only people happy on CNBC are the hosts. And the hosts are really happy, right? And all these CEOs are like, sucks. So the answer to the Hillary Clinton question is this, I think, because I would give her the same homework I just gave you. And if she showed it to me, and I saw that her lines went like this, then I think she would have done right. But you know what? I don't see that on her face. And I want to see that on your face. I want to see on your face that your heart and your life align. Please. And don't do it for me. Do it for your family. Do it for your heart. Do it for yourself. Who cares about me? Do it for your life. Now, here's the thing. She's a trauma surgeon. She sees people dying, right? Like literally on their deathbeds. And not one person has ever looked at her and said, "Doctor, I'm dying, and I wish I would have worked a little harder." I mean, not once. That should tell you something. "Doctor, I wish I was a little prettier. I'm dying now. I wish I had a little more money. Wish I traveled." But they never say that to her. They just look at her every time and say basically something like this: "Doctor, I wish I would have been a better person. I lament that my family wasn't closer," or whatever. And so she kept coming home and telling me this. She's like, "You've got to talk about this in your speeches. People keep telling me this." And the only way I know how to talk about this is law, okay? So in law, there's a concept called hearsay. Do you know what that is? If I hear you say something, I can't go to court and testify about it, right? Because I didn't say it. I got to find you. I got to put you under oath. You tell the judge what you said. Here's the thing, okay? You can't always find a witness. And sometimes witnesses die. So how do you have a trial with the witnesses dead? Well, they have an exception to the hearsay rule. The hearsay rule is you can't admit any hearsay because you want reliable testimony. But you got to have an exception if someone's dying. So they call it a dying declaration. Here's the rule. If I hear someone say something and she's in the process of dying, I can go into court and testify about it, and the judge has to accept it from me. Do you want to know why? They've done study after study after study that proves what someone says when she's dying is true. People on their deathbeds, they don't lie. And I can think of a dozen reasons why. You don't know what's next. There's no consequences to lying. You're dying. Who cares why? They don't lie. So listen very carefully to me. Until people on their deathbed start telling my wife they wish they would have worked harder and had more money and been better looking, until they tell her that, y'all, I'm right. And you're welcome. And you're welcome. And write it down. Don't get mad at me for saying that. Because deep down inside, you know I'm right. But you're looking at me right now, and I know what you're thinking. You're like, dude, if I do what you just said, it's going to cost me. It's going to cost my grades. It's going to cost me money. It's going to cost me fame. Yeah, it is. You're right. So let me give you my list, okay? Because I would never ask you to do something that I don't do myself, okay? I'm a religious guy. I love my wife. I love my kids. I really, really like my job. But if we're just being honest, which of those three things gets to go so I can put my job in the top three? If I'm just being honest, what goes? And at my law firm, here's what they did to people. They didn't phrase it like this, but this is what they did to people, okay? They said, we don't care which one of those three things goes, you pick. Like, that was cool, right? What do you think lawyers picked of those three? Just guess. What went first? Faith was second. What was first? Marriage. Look at the divorce rates amongst attorneys and doctors and careers like that. Next was faith. Third was kids. What were these lawyers left with, y'all? A really high-paying job. These people were miserable. So I don't do that. And it would be impossible for me to recount for you the ways in which that philosophy has cost me in my career. It would be impossible for me to tell you. I've lost jobs, raises, promotions, money, awards. I remember one year I was nominated for a Teacher of the Year award, and they told me I knew someone on the committee. And he's like, dude, no one else was nominated. You're going to win, right? So I'm like, cool, I'll go to the ceremony. And I go sit at the ceremony, and they get to that category, and they go, no award given this year. I couldn't even beat myself because they hate me. Because I go home, and I have dinner with my family, and I coach my daughter's soccer team. We're the Kicking Kangaroos. Kicking Kangaroos, and we're decently good. I'm a good coach. I'll miss meetings for that stuff. And when you miss meetings for that kind of stuff, I mean, they don't own me. And so when that happens, they don't like me. So guess what? I'll never teach at Harvard. I won't. And I'll never win that award. I'll never win those awards, and I just won't win those. I won't win that stuff anymore. They won't let me. But I'm the happiest married man at that whole school. I'm the best dad at that whole school. And listen to me, I'd bet my life on it. So put this in your notes. In life, you choose. You have to choose. There's a reason why I separated her from my kids. Because maybe some of you have parents like this. They put all their energy into you. And then when you went to college here, now they're struggling. Now they're divorced. I'm not going to let that happen, right? So I'm going to plug in. So here's what the word priorities means. This will make you feel better, okay? It means, where does your best energy go? That's all it means. It doesn't mean, how much time do I spend? I spend more time working than I do coaching my daughter's soccer team. That's not what it means. It means, where does your best energy go? And for me, it goes to my family, and my fourth best energy goes to my job, and then I'll work out if I can. And you know what? Listen to me very carefully. I suck at everything else. Like when I go golf, I hope I hit it. And that is not my personality. Like, I'm good at sports, I like sports, I don't like to whiff at anything, and I suck at golf. We like to build furniture for our kids in our garage. Man, I can tell you how bad I am at that. And I hope when they sit on it, it doesn't break, you know? But I suck at it. But here's the key to life. Okay, this is one key to life. If you can be awesome at like 5 things, you can suck at everything else. But see, the lie that the world tells us is, if you're not awesome at everything, you're a failure. That's nonsense. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm going to be good at about 5 things. You know what? When my kids go to college, maybe I can be better at golf. If I still want to, can your priorities list change? Yeah, if your heart tells it to. Totally. Just make sure it's your heart that tells it to and not your head. I ask her all the time, who's the most famous trauma surgeon in the country? And she looks at me and she's like, I don't freaking know. Probably some white guy in New York City. Who knows? Who cares? Do you care? Do y'all care who the best person in your field is at it? Do you really care? Does anyone care? So my advice for you is, be good at about 5 things. Make school be on that list. School needs to be on that list. Because you're at a time right now where you're not married probably, and you don't have kids, so congratulations, okay? Here's my question though. Do you want to? Do you want to have that stuff? And if you want to have that stuff, listen very carefully. You have to build it into your life now. Because no one starts working Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5, and starts to build in family. You can't do that. You've got to build it into your mind now, and you have to know which ladder you're climbing and why, and make sure that that works. And some of you are looking at me like, dude, I'm 20. Cool. Then just save this, file this away for your 30-year-old self. Just file this away for me, okay? And I promise you, one day you'll look back and say, thank you for this day. Just promise me. I just know this to be true. And it's going to hurt, and every day, this is not my personality to be bad at stuff, I'm telling you. I don't like that, but I like them more. I don't like not hitting a golf ball, but I like them more. I just want you to think about that. At a young age, if I would have known that, I would have done life a lot different. Okay, last couple points for me. Some of you right now are going, dude, you're asking me to wake up happy? I don't. And you're telling me to find some friends? Well, I don't have any, and I'm overcommitted. And now you're telling me I need to be a good person? No one's ever talked to me like that. And now you want me to fix my priorities so that my GPA suffers? I mean, my answer to you is yes, please. You know, there are no shortcuts to any place worth going in life, so yes. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, what are the 10 steps? Kent will tell you this. There are no 10 steps to being a good person. Like, if you go to Barnes & Noble and you buy that book, you might as well save the receipt. Like a book that says, hey, how do I lose 40 pounds in 3 weeks? Or what? It's too hard. It doesn't work. How can I bench press 300 pounds in a month? You can't. Those books that's all full of crap. You know what I found? 17 years teaching ethics, okay? Here's what I know. It's just a fight. Every day you get up, you fall down, you get back up, you do it better the next day. It's like a puzzle. Okay, what do you do? First thing you do when you do a puzzle, what's the first thing you do? You do the border. And most of you in this room right now, you have your border, hopefully pretty good. Okay? Then what do? You start sorting stuff into colors. Right? And sometimes you get colors and they start to go together really quickly. Like, here's all the reds, and you just see a pattern and you go. Sometimes in our life that'll happen. Right? It'll just be boom, boom, boom. You know what I do sometimes though in a puzzle when that doesn't happen? I take every single piece. I plug it in until it fits, huh? And sometimes it still doesn't fit. So sometimes your puzzle may never be done. That's just not how it works. And you can't expect it to go fast. And here's step 1 through 100. No, man, just get up and try again. So Tony Horton, anyone do P90X? The workout stuff? Tony Horton's awesome. And he would just say something like this. Every day, you get up, you put that DVD in, and you just push play. He's a philosopher. That's what I want you to do every day in your life when it comes to ethics. Just get up every day and push play. So try again. I know what's right. I know what's right. I'm just going to push play. Then he has another line, and in his workouts, it'll be a really hard something like, 50 push-ups or something, and he'll go, do your best and forget the rest. I love it. Don't try to be perfect. Just do your best. Get up and push play. There's a couple of things I just want you to think about in order to do that, because if you're with me and you think it's too hard, then every day I want you to try these 3 things, okay? And I stole this from Jimmy Valvano. If you know Jimmy Valvano, every day I want you to think. Promise me you'll think every day. Every day I want you to have your emotions stirred. I want you to get goosebumps at this place, okay? And every day I want you to laugh at yourself. want you to do those three things. Okay, I want you to think. Wisdom begins in wonder, right? Socrates said that. I want you to come to class. I want you to think. Don't be a transactional student. Please don't do that. I graduated college with a 3.95 GPA. I was summa cum laude. I went to law school, and I was literally the dumbest kid in the room because I knew how to get through classes and get A's. I was really good at that. Who's ever felt like the dumbest person in a room? And I said to myself, Corey, I will never be that again. But I didn't know how to think. I just knew how to study and take tests. How useless is that? You got to be able to keep two opposing ideas in your head without exploding. I could sit down with you because of the classes that I teach, and we could talk about abortion for 4 hours. Let's don't, but we could. I could talk to you about abortion for 4 hours, and at the end of that conversation, I still wouldn't be sure I was right. Why? Because it's hard. Do I think that's a human life? I think it's a human life. I saw my daughter's ultrasounds. Do I think a woman should have a right to choose? Yeah. So now what do I do? What do I do when it comes to ethics in that? What do I do when it comes to law? I got to figure out a legal position on that, right? You know who doesn't know what they're talking about? Your Uncle Frank on Facebook. I would ignore those things completely because you know what the real answer is? It's just really hard and I don't know. So how about you come here and you think every day? Take him and learn how to think like he thinks. Think like your chemistry professor thinks. Think like that. Okay, then every day I want you to get goosebumps, right? Something should stir your emotions every day here. I want you to fight for inches on this campus, not touchdowns. Screw touchdowns. Okay, life's all about the inches. If I got fired tomorrow, man, I would go home and I would look at all these thank you cards that students have written me, and what I realize now is I'm a teacher for the inches, not the touchdowns. If you walk into every day like that, it's easier because you won't always score touchdowns. I go months and years without scoring touchdowns, but I can gain an inch every day. I can do that every day, man. Someone else's life, some little thing, and then just laugh at yourself, okay? Just every day. I mean, he's totally right about that. Think about the dumbest thing you've ever done. Do y'all know what that is? Like the dumbest thing? This is college, so it might have been last weekend. I don't know. It's close. I like to ride my bike, and my wife goes, if you're going to ride your bike, you need to wear a helmet. And I said, I don't want to wear a helmet. I want to listen to my headphones. She's like, no, you need to wear a helmet. So she bought me a bike helmet. It has Bluetooth speakers, right? It's cool. There's no cords. You would never know there were speakers. So I go on this bike ride. I'm listening to something. I come home. Bike ride's over, so I put my bike away. I've got my helmet on, and I'm walking around my garage in a bike helmet. No problem. Who cares? No one can see me. Then I see my lawnmower. And I mowed my lawn for an hour with my bike helmet on. Here's the problem. No one around me knew it had speakers. So they thought I was doing it for safety. So they come over like, dude, do you have a brain injury? What's wrong? They're trying to talk to me. I'm like, no, there's speakers in here. Like, where's the cord? They don't know, right? So now I do that like 4 or 5 times a summer. I love it. You can hear the music. But sometimes people look at me and go, well, life's too hard, Corey, to laugh like that. Look at our world. And if you say that to me, then I would say to you that you're half right and mostly wrong. Like, life is way too hard. I agree not to laugh like that. And if you can't laugh like that every day, you're going to break. If you take yourself too seriously, you're going to break. There's a poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I'm going to end with this, okay? Print this out. Just called Success. Go home and print this out. There's a line in there. It talks about leaving a legacy, which is kind of our goal. I mean, I hope. That's why we're here. And he says, you make a difference by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. And that's beautiful, right? And I realized once I read that, Corey, you don't have to cure cancer. You just need to be a good dad. Go back to 2nd grade. You got a paragraph, you got a line, a bunch of phrases separated by the word or. What does that mean? It means they're all equal. I'm going to say this to you, and I believe this with all my heart. My mom has cancer, so I'm just going to say this to you. I would prefer a society full of extraordinary fathers over a cure for cancer. You? I would prefer a society where everyone plugs deeply into their communities. This is your garden patch here, this beautiful campus, than a cure for cancer. And I say that as someone who needs a cure for cancer, right? But like, it's close. It's close. So how about you pick one? Well, you don't have kids, and you're not going to cure cancer, right? So how about you pick this garden patch of yours? So walk out of this room today and pick something here on this campus and make it better. And do it with character and integrity, okay? And if you do that, our world will be healed. I believe that. If more people did that, that's the only way to heal this world. There's no 10-step program. It's just people plugging into their communities. Okay? Let's do that. All right, I'm done. Thank you. You were great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Kent. Questions, or it's up to you. Tell me your name. Say it really loud. Go ahead, Nick. Yeah, well, there you go. You want to be like him? Okay. Yes, the question is, so just so y'all heard it, have I ever taken anything off my priorities list? A ton, because I used to have 20, and I realized it's too many. Now, honestly, if I was being honest with you guys, I would have like 6. But I want to give you 10 because I want to give you some bandwidth, but yeah, you don't, 6. Okay? Nick, seriously. Good. What else? Yes, sir. What's your name? Hi. So I'm going to say this, okay, and this doesn't have to be yours, my faith. I believe every single one of you in this room has to have something at your core, okay? So for me, it's my faith. For you, it could be philosophy, it could be humanity, I don't care. But here's what I know, that if that thing got taken away from you, you'd lose everything, right? So you got to find out what that is. And I don't think it's fair to put a human being there. Like if I put a human being there, in the worst moments of my life, I'll crush that person. A person can't go there. Right? So you got to find out what that is, and that needs to form your core, and then everything else you do in your life has to be surrounded by that, right? So if you put job there, then money's going to be pulled towards it, but relationship is going to be pushed from it, right? You want everything where everything's magnetically attracted to that center core. Such a good question. 17 years of ethics, just by the way, comes down to that one question. Can you find that core? And if you find that core, everything else works out, but it can't be job. Please don't let it be job, and it shouldn't be another person, okay? Beautiful. Yeah, keep going. Well, I don't really care. I just think most people want to. So I think we're better off if we do that, and I've just met a lot of people who want to. But again, you're thinking of legacy in a different term than I am maybe, because I consider a great parent to be a legacy, right? It's not just curing cancer. Does that make sense? Yeah, good. Okay, tell me your name. Go ahead, Ben. Yeah. Okay, it's how to navigate the gray? Okay, so Bon Jovi theory of life, remember this? I do this all the time. It's just never my first thing. So here's what I'll do. I'll look for the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Then I'll look at my duty as a human being in a society governed by a social contract, right? Then I'll look at the dignity of human beings. Like, am I valuing someone's dignity? Then I'll look at Aristotle and say, hey, what values am I upholding here? Then if I still don't know, then I'll do this. I do this a lot, but it's an educated guess now. Where did I learn all that stuff? Ethics class, right? I mean, so ethics classes matter, right? Because I'm still going to do this a lot, but now I'm not guessing anymore. Okay? Lovely. These questions are so good. Extra credit for all these kids. Yeah. Hi. Looking in their eyes. You got to have some people in your life you can look in their eyes. And I do that with her now. She's struggling, right? She just went part-time in her job. She was full-time. She went part-time, and it's a struggle. Talk to her about it afterwards, right? Because, you're really successful. She went to Cornell Medical School, right? To, quit that and go part-time because you have kids. The world doesn't tell you to do that. But she knows it's right. And so you just got to look at someone. Don't start crying, baby. You're going to make me cry. Good. Yes, again? Part C. Go. Oh, I'm a Christian. Yeah, I'm a Christian. But, I've been reading a lot about Judaism lately, and I think this applies to everyone in this room. The concept of a Sabbath is really, really powerful. Y'all need a rest. Find some time to rest. It doesn't have to be a Friday or however they do it, a Saturday. I don't care, but do you have any rest in your life? Again, yeah, okay, what else? Someone else. I'll come back to you if there's no one else. Yeah. So you mentioned between your law career and when you found your college that you had your own business. I know, I glanced over that. I knew someone was going to call me on it. I was under time crunch. I'm just kidding. No, I used to teach, so we made a business that taught tennis to kids. I taught tennis and basketball to kids, and before I knew it, I had 40 employees. So I was going to do that the rest of my life. I was going to be an entrepreneur. Any future entrepreneurs in here? So yeah, pick something. There's a reason I didn't set up a consulting firm. I did what I knew, right? But what I wasn't doing is using the deep part of my brain. Being an entrepreneur is hard, and it's a ton of brain work, but it's not the deep philosophy part. And so I ended up selling that and doing this. But I've never worked harder than that. That was harder than my law firm, but it was my life and my time, So, yeah. So every single one of you, this is such a good question, every one of you in this room should have some entrepreneurial vision in the back of your head that you would execute if you didn't get the job you wanted out of college. I want each of you to think about that, okay? What would you do if you couldn't get a job? What business, what do you know that you could do, man? It's a really smart idea. Okay, yeah, really quick. Like an ethical scenario? Oh. Yeah, okay, is there a line? Is that what you're asking? Let me be very honest with you right now, okay? If someone offered me $5 million to be away from my kids for a year, I still wouldn't. I want you to understand that, because money doesn't drive me. But let me say it in a different way, though. Like, what is that line? And you have to find it for yourself. Because I miss stuff for my kids sometimes, and I'm out of town sometimes. And let's say I'm gone for 4 days in a row. That happens. But listen very carefully to this, okay? When I do that, I always get back to my baseline. I will have the next week at home. Very rarely am I weeks and weeks gone, okay? Same with you. You're going to have hard days. College is hard. So you're going to but always get back to your baseline, right? I never leave that baseline. But I really, seriously, $100 million maybe. Everyone has their price. But I'm honest, I don't know how you see these dads who don't want anything to do with their kids. I can't understand that. I would be lost. Yeah, what's your name? Yeah, hi. Negatory? Yeah, I think I gave a week or something. But so if y'all are going to quit a job like that, good question. Have a plan. Don't just quit. But listen, I had nothing to lose at that point in my life. I got stuff to lose now, but at that point I had nothing to lose. Yeah. Okay, a couple more, yeah.
So would you consider yourself always an ethical person?
No.
Is it
Ask her. Ask her. This is convicting, man. This job is convicting. Don't you think? I mean, we are on a soapbox at this job, and I feel like such a hypocrite when I don't act right. And so you'd think, well, that's not fair, Corey. They shouldn't treat you any different. But I chose to stand here. I chose to stand up here, right? So, yeah, oh my gosh. Well, she saved my life. I mean, you got to have someone in your life that will save your life, right? I wasn't a great person. And she kind of looked at me one day. I remember this, and she's like, if you don't change, I'm out. And I thought she was pretty, so I changed. Now, what does that tell you? How quick can a person change if they really want to, right? Yeah, lovely.
How do you prevent yourself from
Too much rest? Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's not wired in me. But that's just not who I am. I need more rest. But if that's you, then I still want you to keep this fire. So it's fire and peace. One of my daughters is fire. Sophie's pure fire. And the other one, Sydney, is pure peace, the sweetest kid you'll ever meet. You need both, So maybe you have more peace, so I need you to find some fire. And that's going to be your legacy and your mission thing, right? It's fire and peace. Yeah, in the back. Are we okay, Ken, or should I stop it?
It's your call.
I don't want you guys to be late to anything, but go ahead.
When you quit your job a year later, was Scott still working there?
No, Scott was, but the partner guy died. Heart attack. Heart attack. From work. Yeah. Doesn't have a path? Good. Passion. Okay, you just haven't thought about it hard enough. You know it. You just haven't thought about it. Go home tonight. Every one of you, home tonight. 5 things you love. What would you do for free? Right? If I lost this job tomorrow, I'd go coach basketball. I would love that. I would write. I have 5 things I would do. You know it. You just don't know it. Yeah. Go ahead in the very back.
My suggestion, what would you do to tell a parent and working themselves to death to change their path?
Your parent? Okay, so 2 things. Google my name. Can you send out my name? Have them watch this speech. It's online. Because I can say things you can't say, because they can't ground me, right? Also, walk up to them and say, I love you so much, and this is what I heard today. I need you to listen to me, please, and tell them the real rabbit story. Steal all my stuff. But start off with, I love you so much, okay? This is what I want to tell you. And they may or may not listen. People are stubborn, but you got to try. But when you approach someone with ethics like that, you can't just say, hey, I heard the speaker and you need to do this. Don't do that. I love you so much and listen to me, okay? I love that. Please do that.
One more question.
Okay, sorry, can't. Yes, ma'am. Make it good. It's the last one. It's on film. Okay.
So when you have a person as your core, whatever your core is, and it breaks or it's fundamental change, how do you build it back up?
With that person?
Just in general, it might have not been a person, but
Like your faith breaks?
yeah.
We've had this happen to us. I'm not going to go into it, but our faith was almost broken. with some stuff that happened to us. And I mean, it was there in the first place, right? You believed it once. I look at my life, and here, this is just me, okay? I would be dead or in jail without my faith, right? So if it's broken, what else do I have, right? So you got to look back at it and say, why did you pick it in the first place? Like, why did you pick it? Great question. Here you go. Make me cry at the end. It was there, and it mattered to me, and life is really hard, but it still matters to me. But that's why it can't be a person, because you can't come back from crushing someone like that, right? But like in my mind, God will always be there for me, right? And that's part of the deal. That's part of the deal about being human, right? You just kind of wrestle, and life's really hard. But let's say it's philosophy for you. Fine, that'll still be there for you. You can wrestle with that. You can wrestle with humanity, I think. But don't ever lose it. And I wouldn't start substituting stuff in there because you picked it at one point in your life, right? Okay, thank you for nothing. All right, thanks.